But really the best way to understand your customers is asking them directly how you want to be contacted instead of bucketing them into an assumed strategy and, hoping for the best.
Good morning. Welcome to Your Place. I'm Dennis McGinn, founder and CEO of vehicle reconditioning and communications company, Rapid Recon. Several times a month, we visit guests at their place of business to talk about interesting topics in the automotive industry. Today, we are fortunate to have Lindsey Gallagher. Lindsey is with Authenticom in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And Authenticom is a company I've known about for a long time. I know the founder and have a lot of respect for what they've accomplished going through a lot of ups and downs in this industry. So, Lindsey, maybe you could start out by just kind of giving us a little framework of what you do for Authenticom in product and marketing. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Dennis. It's nice to be here. I appreciate you having me on. I'm Lindsey Gallagher. I am the Director of Product and Marketing for Authenticom. So I oversee both our product and our marketing team, which includes a lot of our product development and new feature and products that we're launching. So, and about Authenticom, so a little bit Authenticom, I should say. So we primarily work in data integration and syndication. So what that means is we assist dealers in getting data out of their DMS systems. And then what we do is we format the data, standardize it, validate it, all of those great services. And then we also apply data hygiene services to some of this data to, make it even more valuable. And then we make that data available to the dealer's vendor partners. So we really kind of sit in between dealers and their vendors, where we help facilitate that data exchange between the two. And it's very heavily reliant on the dealer's approval and participation, because at Authenticom, we really stand behind that it's the dealer's data, and they should always have control over who gets their data and what data they receive. And so that type of mentality kind of extends to all of our products. The most well-known product in the industry that we have is a product called DealerVault. That's kind of our flagship product that was created probably over 10 years ago now. Dennis, I'm sure you're a little familiar with that product.
I certainly am.
Yeah. And so the premise of that product is to give dealers more control and visibility in the data integration and exchange process with their vendor partners. And, so far that product has, again, it's been in the industry for about 10 years. We have about over 12,000 dealers that actively use DealerVault. So that's one of the products that we have under the Authenticom umbrella. And of course, the product that I'll be speaking about a little bit today is our ContactVia product, which is our newest product that has a lot of the same elements as DealerVault, where it comes to control and visibility into the data, but more specifically around customer data. And so we're getting kind of customers involved in that process now as well. So that's a little bit about Authenticom.
Well, and this gets you kind of overlapped a little bit into this, what people call CRM, I think, arena. And so could you talk a little bit about how ContactVia actually works and, how you help your customers with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So ContactVia is really a preference management platform. So how it works is dealers will connect their data to ContactVia, and then ContactVia kind of initiates these invites out to the dealer's customers. They're all, branded by the dealership, and we invite the customer to set their preferences directly with ContactVia. So it's all very driven directly from the customer, so it's reliable. One of the challenges that dealers have today is they have so many different systems that they work within. They have DMS, they have CRM, they have a number of vendor programs and softwares that they work within. And each system could have a different information about the customer or different preferences set. And so the challenge is which of those is the most accurate, right? So ContactVia is really kind of an independent platform that collects those preferences and we make them available to the dealers and then subsequently their vendor partners that need access to them as well. So that all of that gets to be a little bit more manageable and clear as to what is accurate and reliable.
What have you seen in the industry over the last couple of years with regards to customer information and how that's controlled? There seems to be a lot more sensitivity in terms of the availability and use of customers' personal information.
Yeah, well, customer data is definitely very, it can be very inaccurate sometimes when we see it from dealerships. They might have incorrect emails or phone numbers or addresses. So a lot of our hygiene services that we offer help clean up that data, which is really helpful from the dealerships and their vendors' perspective. But definitely a lot around data privacy. We have a lot more inquiries about who's accessing my data or questions about how to remove the data from being syndicated to some of the vendors. And a lot of this is stemming from those data privacy laws that have been enacted over the last few years, right? I'm sure you guys are familiar with the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA.
Yep.
It's sister CPRA. Many other states are starting to enact them. So it's really clear that customers are very concerned about the state of data and who's accessing it. So, that's kind of where a lot of this ContactVia product's vision was born, is that customers are wanting more control and visibility into where their data is going and who's accessing it, and making sure that the companies that are accessing that data or house it are doing it responsibly. So that's kind of the trend we've been seeing with customer data over the last few years, especially, again, as it relates to those privacy laws that are being enacted.
So a question with regards to consumers and their preferences. Has that changed a lot in the last couple of years in terms of how the consumers of your customers, and which you're helping that to happen, have changed their preferences in terms of how they want to get notified of things, how they want to get information?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of research behind preferences, and they vary so much among different categories. When you're thinking about generations or even locations, there are different preferences for different customers. And so that's why it's so important to understand how your customers are wanting to be contacted. Even with the beta dealers that we had testing out our ContactVia product, when we saw customers setting their preferences, it was all different. We had some that were just wanting to be contacted through email. We had some that were just looking for text messages. We had some that were a little bit more flexible as to how to contact them, whether it was phone or email or mail, and they were open to all of them. But it seems to really vary most among generations. I mean, I think about millennials, they really like to be contacted through text message or email. They're not really phone type people, but there are other generations that prefer to be called and have that personal connection. So I don't have a solid answer for your question other than it really does vary quite differently. And that's why it's so imperative that dealerships have a really solid preference management platform and strategy.
Yeah, certainly have seen that over time as well with the different generations,
Hmm.
and everybody wants control, right? They
Yep.
because they have so many things coming at them. I mean, I guess this is just me talking, but they're trying to narrow down what they get from what media. I don't know
Yep.
how that actually works, but it seems like it's a constant struggle with a massive amount of information, not just from your through your automotive connection, but all over the place. And I guess the point is, how do you figure out what are the essential things that need to get to these people and make sure that they that their preferences are being supported, whether that's a millennial or whether it's somebody that wants a phone update or things
Hmm.
like that. How, a little bit more maybe about how that actually happens. I'm the consumer, and I'm obviously not quite a millennial, but I've got them all around me.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say that the best way to understand that is really looking at the data and analyzing it. So with ContactVia, for example, because we have a bunch of granular level topics and what we deem channels, which is the method of communication like phone, email, mail. All of that can be set separately among the different types of communication. So let's, for example, talk about newsletters. That's something that a dealership might offer. Um, a customer can come in and set their preferences for that specific item. So something that a lot of the DMSs and CRMs, excuse me, do are they have kind of a global flag, right? Do they prefer email or do they prefer phone or do they prefer mail? And it's not really specific to what type of communication you're attempting to contact them about. So by looking at the data across these different types of topics or communications, it can really be telling as to where you might be missing out on some opportunity where, let's say you look at your data from this preference platform and you're noticing that majority of your customers are preferring to be texted about a specific type of communication, and you might not have that available. So it could help drive your communication strategy in that way. But really the best way to understand your customers is asking them directly how you want to be contacted instead of bucketing them into an assumed strategy and, hoping for the best.
And on the consumer's end, how do they get to those controls? I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
so how do they get to those preferences? They're getting barraged and they say, boy, I'm sure tired of getting all these emails or getting all these phone calls. And what's the process by which they say, okay, I'm going to get more control of my life of trying to absorb information and maybe get a lot more selective about what gets to me and what does not. That's,
Yeah. So how customers have the ability to do that is through an account. So basically, ContactVia is all web based. So dealers interact through it through the web. Customers interact through it through to interact with it through the web. And so what happens is typically they'll be initiated an invite. Usually that's from the dealership by them connecting their data into ContactVia, and it says, hey, this dealership's looking to understand your preferences, or we as a dealership are looking to understand your preferences. Create your account. So what they do is they create an account. It gives them a web portal where they can set those preferences, and it's not
okay.
only for that dealership. And that's the really forward thinking thing about ContactVia is it's intended to be a one-stop shop for consumers and their different organizations or businesses that they might want to set their preferences for. So they can have many businesses in there that they have preferences set for, and each one of them is going to be different. So, as we continue to launch the product in different verticals and industries, it will give customers even more ability in there to kind of manage this all in one platform, rather than having to dig through your email and go to that person's preference management page to unsubscribe. This is intended to have everything in one place for them, so that it's just so much easier to manage this. Because thinking about myself and where I get a bunch of communications from, half the time I don't even know how these people have my data or my information, and how to turn off, or opt out. And that can be really frustrating from a customer's perspective. So from the consumer side, it's definitely that's the value to them, is that they have one account and they can set their preferences among any amount of organizations.
That is really that's really great. I mean, I wish I could do that with everything I get, including the mail that comes through the slot in the front door. And I don't think we've perfected that yet, and be able to just I don't know. Eventually, we will be able to control that. But that's really fascinating what you're doing, and so important for people to get the information they want, and to not get the information they don't want. And it's a massive task. But you have 12,000 dealers, and that's a lot of dealers to keep track of. So that's a huge business. And so you have both independents as well as franchise dealers. And is your business mostly in North America?
It is, yes. Yep.
Okay. Well, anything else that you can think of that would be useful to kind of my audience that you'd like to talk about, of kind of where you're going with Authenticom, where the marketing and product emphasis are going? What's the next things that you're going to tackle here that the consumers are going to be interested in?
Yeah, that's a great question. Our company is really focused on really driving the industry to be the most technologically modern. So with our integration methods, for example, with our DMSs, we're really leveraging API technology to ensure that data is transferred as quickly and securely as possible. So that's definitely something that's top of mind for us. In addition to, our continuing to adopt and launch our ContactVia product with the preference management, because again, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to a dealership to really start thinking about, if they haven't already, their data privacy and preferences strategy. Because with these different data privacy laws, it's going to be very detrimental to a dealership if many of their customers want to remove their data altogether to be accessible to the dealer. And this type of preference management platform is really going to give the customer what they're looking for, and hopefully make it unlikely that they're going to want to opt out, because you're using their data responsibly, you're reaching out to them as they're asking for. So it's really should help minimize some of that, and minimize the risk of creating a really poor experience for your customers in how you communicate with them or establish those relationships. So continuing to evolve our ContactVia product, one of the things that we've really enjoyed as we've been launching this product is gathering feedback from our dealerships. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback about different areas that we can continue to evolve and improve and help dealerships in this need that is very glaringly present, but a little bit behind in the dealership's eyes of what they need to do immediately. So we're really trying to educate and understand how we can best support these dealers as they're working through these strategies. So, that's kind of where Authenticom is at this point. We're going to continue to just make sure the data is as accurate and reliable and valuable as possible. And that's what we've always done. And that's what we always will do.
And maybe a final question here before we wrap up. Since you've been with Authenticom now, have you seen your customers, your dealers, get more sensitive to the impact of their communications to their customers?
Absolutely. Yes, I absolutely have. Especially over the last couple of years. I think dealerships and vendors are becoming more and more aware of the impact that their communication has and how it can create a really great experience or it can create a really poor experience. And so to them, it's just become really top of mind and very, very important to ensure that they're creating those great experiences and minimizing the poor experiences. So to answer your question really quickly, yes, I've definitely seen a change.
That's probably the core of your business strategy is, make the noise between what the dealers want to get to the consumers and what the consumers want to hear, manage that as well as possible. So this is really fascinating. I know this is a really big task. You have a lot of customers. The whole data privacy, data cleansing is such an enormous area, and it sounds like your ContactVia product is just the right place at the right time for an industry. Mm-hmm. So it's really great to hear you talk about it, and I'm so this is such an interesting area these days. Mm-hmm. Is to how you get the right messages to the right people, and so it sounds like you guys have a good handle on where you're going with that. Any last minute thoughts here?
I guess I do have one last thought on the importance of capturing preferences and understanding your customers. In that, a lot of dealership revenue is from those recurring customers or a certain percentage of customers. And by understanding their needs and getting kind of the hand raisers up front, it really will make it a lot easier for dealers to target those customers a lot sooner than the kind of standard process. So, I feel like a little bit of a broken record because I keep talking about the importance of preferences, but I think that is the future of customer expectations and personalized experiences, and while also balancing the data privacy aspect of it. So I guess I would just encourage any dealer listener that is not active, that doesn't actively have, preference management platform or a solid communication strategy to really start working through that and think about that. And certainly reach out to Authenticom if you want any guidance with that. We've had a lot of conversations with our dealers around that topic. And one last thing I'll say about ContactVia and DealerVault is both of those are free to dealers. So if you're looking for a solution, we have a solution for you. It's free to you. So we're here if you need us.
Well, this is really, really great information. So, Lindsey, I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and give us the perspective on this. It's such an important topic these days, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Lindsey Gallagher, Director of Product and Marketing at Authenticom in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and
Hmm.
a very well managed and strong company that I have known for years, and really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
we'll get a look. We're going to keep looking into this, and maybe we'll circle back later and kind of hear how ContactVia has evolved over time. So
Awesome. That sounds great.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate your time as well. Thank you.